of Sihor. The harvest of the river is her revenue, and she is the mart of nations. Be thou ashamed, O Sidon, for the sea hath spoken. Even the strength of the sea is saying, I travail not, nor bring forth children, neither do I nourish up young men, nor grow virgins. As at the report concerning Egypt, so shall they be sorely pained with the report of Tyre. Pass ye over to
All right, welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. We're continuing the book of Isaiah. We're in chapter 51. Just gonna make that loud. There we go. All right. Oh, I got the wrong headphones on. Wonder why I'm not hearing anything. Oh, there we go. Yes, everything's fine. So, let's read it. Isaiah 51, we'll pick it up with verse 9. We're going to read it from verse 1. Hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness, ye that seek the Lord. Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Look unto Abraham your father, and unto Sarah that bare you. For I called him alone, and blessed him, and increased him. For the Lord shall comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. Hearken unto me, my people, and give ear to me, O my nation, for a law shall proceed from me, and I will make my judgment to rest for a light of the people. My righteousness is near. My salvation is gone forth, and mine arms shall judge the people. The isles shall wait upon me, and on my arm shall they trust. Lift up your eyes to the heavens, and look upon the earth beneath, for the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment, and they that dwell therein shall die in like manner. But my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished. Hearken unto me, ye that know righteousness, the people in whose heart is my law. Fear ye not the reproach of men, neither be ye afraid of their revilings. For the moth shall eat them up like a garment, and the worm shall eat them like wool. But my righteousness shall be forever, and my salvation from generation to generation. Awake and put on strength, O arm of the Lord. Awake as in the ancient days, in the generations of old. Art thou not he that hath cut Rahab and wounded the dragon? Art thou not it which hath dried the sea, the waters of the great deep, that hath made the depths of the sea a way for the ransom to pass over? Therefore the redeemed of the Lord shall return and come with singing unto Zion, and everlasting joy shall be upon their head. They shall obtain gladness and joy, and sorrow and mourning shall flee away. I, even I, am he that comforteth you. Who art thou that thou shouldest be afraid of a man that shall die, and of the Son of Man which shall be made as grass? And forgettest the Lord thy Maker, that hath stretched forth the heavens, and laid the foundations of the earth, and hast feared continually every day because of the fury of the oppressor, as if he were ready to destroy? And where is the fury of the oppressor? The captive exile hasteneth that he may be loosed, and they should not die in the pit, nor that his bread should fail. But I am the Lord thy God, that divideth the sea, whose waves roared. The Lord of hosts is his name. And I have put my words in thy mouth, and I have covered thee in the shadow of my hand, that I may plant the heavens, and lay the foundations of the earth, and say unto Zion, Thou art my people, thou art my people. Awake, awake, stand up, O Jerusalem, which has drunk at the hand of the Lord the cup of his fury. Thou hast drunken the dregs of the cup of trembling and wrung them out. There is none to guide her among all the sons whom she hath brought forth, neither is there any that taketh her by the hand of all the sons that she brought up. These two things are come unto thee. Who shall be sorry for thee? Desolation and destruction, and the famine, and the sword. By whom shall I comfort thee? Thy sons have fainted. They lie at the head of all the streets, as a wild bull in a net. They are full of the fury of the Lord, the rebuke of thy God. Therefore hear now this, thou afflicted and drunken, but not with wine. Thus saith the Lord. Thus saith thy Lord the Lord, and thy God that pleadeth the cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out of thine hand the cup of trembling, even the dregs of the cup of my fury, that thou should no more drink it again. But I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee, which say to thy soul, Bow down, that we may go over. And thou hast laid thy body as the ground and as the street to them that went over. Next it goes to Zion. Yeah, it's this 51 seems to really be connected to 52, but I'm not sure where the chapter division actually belongs there. So, all right. So, in the beginning, the focus is on his righteousness and his salvation and their enduring nature, compared to the creation, which we know is running down. We know that's true. The earth, the heavens and the earth are going to vanish away. The whole thing will eventually just left to itself. Not that it's necessarily going to be that, but I'm just saying we can predict. Oh boy, my hair looks weird today. Stop looking. Oh, there we go. We can predict this based on its current trajectory. Now, God, there's going to be a new heavens and a new earth, which are, I learned as a renewed heavens and earth, not brand new as if recreated from scratch. But I mean, of course, the system that we see that is dying can be renewed. It's beyond our understanding, but it doesn't have to pass away. Meaning God, well, it'll pass away. It says, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. The heavens and earth that are now, they do pass away. But there is a renewal, a new whatever, a new heaven. It says new, but it doesn't have to of necessity. I don't know why I'm defending that position. It wasn't mine, but it's like the way I was taught. It was like, no, it's not the new heavens and the new earth is the same heaven and earth, but renewed. I don't know why I feel like I need to continue to defend that, because I don't necessarily know if that's right. It doesn't matter. Either way, it's a detail. One of those details, it's like you could figure it out once you get there. But we know that the heavens and earth that are now, through observation, we know that things are running down. Eventually all the stars will burn out their energy and die a heat death, and the sky will go black, and the universe will go cold. Because it can't go on by itself. That's the thing. God has made the world in such a way that we know it's dying. I mean, obviously they suspected it in ancient times. I don't know that Isaiah thought he was making a. I think that in a sense they probably thought they look permanent. They look like the earth. It's there forever, right? But the Bible says no. The earth will get old. Well, the stars will vanish away, and the earth shall get old. I mean, it'll still be around. It'll just be all cold and dead. And that's like the message. The people that men fear. what was the word used? The reproach, the revilings. Because if you stand with God, it will come to that eventually. Because men will eventually, it always happens. Such is the nature of the world, Men are in the world, and, we have our faith to tell us what we should and shouldn't do and to constrain our behavior to limit within certain parameters. Men think, religion is there to control us. It's there to save you is really what it's there for. It's there to save you. Christianity is here to save you. And because men, human beings, will take whatever's possible and go for, and they'll all the imaginations of their heart they will attempt to do. We're entering like a time that reminds me like of the Tower of Babel. And there's a Babylon of the end time, so you figure there's got to be something. The end times would look something like, a culmination of the world together, and we are coming into time. I never said. Like when I was young, they said, "Oh, we're living in the end times." I still don't think we are, but we live in the times that could immediately. We live in such times that would make one think so. I understand that. And it's certainly worth noting. But there's all kinds of hazards in the world. Anyways, men will just do whatever they can. If they can, if they can, I don't want to make, there's certain things I don't want to say right off the bat. But whatever corrupt thoughts, whatever perverse desires they have, they try to make the world so that that's possible for them. They want to fulfill all their corrupt desires. And anyone who says, well, we shouldn't do that, tries to stand in the way of them marching forward towards oblivion, those people are reviled. And you can expect it. If you stand up for what's right, when everyone's going wrong, they don't appreciate it. People don't appreciate being told they're doing the wrong thing. I said it, I find it worse when people know they're doing the wrong thing. So when a teacher told me, that they indicated they didn't really agree with the mask policy. Yeah? Why are you doing it? And why are you playing the tip of the authoritarian spear for them? You don't agree with it, so it's because you're a coward, huh? Yeah, I know what it feels like. I've been a coward once in a while in my life too. But it's a critical time not to be cowards, So if we don't stand up, they will not, they will keep pushing and pushing, I don't think it'll be successful ultimately because there's way too much resistance that is boiling under the surface, and it will get hotter. So now it says, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. And using this thing we see several times in this chapter and then in the next chapter. Excuse me. The call to waken, doubled. Get up. It's definitely, you can feel the spirit of it. It's an urgent message. When things are doubled like that, it indicates urgency or sincerity, but some sort of strengthening of the idea. Because it sometimes feels like, like when Elijah faced off with the prophets of Baal, he suggested that their God was sleeping. And that can, maybe he's covering his feet. Maybe he's taking himself to the bathroom, and he joked about that. Because God didn't respond. It's because their God didn't respond. But, reading the story of Elijah and the prophets of Baal, I think I worship God sincerely. And when I was a kid, I wanted to, I would call on God and see if he would do stuff for me. And he never did anything. And not until I was like in my 30s did he ever respond to me by doing something. And at that point, I was just like, yeah, whatever. It's fun. It's kind of funny. By the point, I was just like, yeah, whatever. Nothing's going to happen. Okay, Lord Jesus, give me your power or grant me my heart's desire. And then God, when I was on the point of just go, because the degree to which I was not going through the motions, but also kind of going through the motions because my faith was very low. But at the same time, I was still doing it. I was still seeking God, even though I didn't feel very much connection. And because we can feel like God is far away. Because, as it said many times here in Isaiah, God hides himself. He's not hard to find if you want to find him, but the way you find him, it may not be what exactly you're looking for either. A lot of times we want God to get up and put on strength. Aren't you he that cut Rahab and wounded the dragon? It's a reference to Egypt, I believe. Rahab is transliterated, but yeah, it just says, I'll show it to you. I mean, because you can tell by the, I'm sorry, not Bible collection. You can tell by the, by the context that it's talking about Egypt. I like the way they I wonder what's wrong with them here. Definition: storm, a name for egg. What's this name for egg? They couldn't finish it in their concordance for some reason? I don't know. It's just weird. Storm, a name for egg. It's abbreviated, I know, but it's like, seriously? Egypt's not like a big, long word. The same as Rahab. Rahab, that is boaster, an epithet of Egypt. Let's see. It also occurs in Psalm 89 and Psalm 87. Rahab in Babylon. In Psalm 89. I'm curious. 87. I don't want to do parallel Hebrew. I want. Oh, whatever. There's no Bill Philistia. The name of a lot of the nations there. Psalm 89. Oh, maybe I got it. Oh, maybe I just need to change Bibles. There we go. Silly. There we go. Oh, what was the verse? There we go. So you cut Rahab in pieces. It's not as obvious here. The raging of the sea, Rahab. They said it means a storm. I see some storm references, whatever. In Isaiah here, it's pretty clear that whatever Rahab is, particularly, it's referring to Egypt in some sense. In some way that probably, the name does mean something like storm or boaster or blowhard, I don't know. It has some force of colloquial meaning probably in Hebrew. So to call Egypt by that as a proper name, which it's being done here, is to, invoke a certain thoughts. Because in the days of Isaiah, whether you're talking the first Isaiah or the latter portion when he's writing here, Egypt was no longer really an important world power. Certainly not a dominant power. They were important. It was an important nation, but it was not the Egypt that had been back in the Bronze Age. They did not have the same power and militarily they were not as formidable. They mostly were, Egypt was Egypt because it was down there in the desert. It was surrounded by the desert on one side and then the Sinai on the other. It had a lot of natural defenses. Okay, I thought he dried up the sea. So, calling God to wake up, for his arm to wake up. Aren't you the one that did that stuff in Egypt? You dried up the sea. The parting of the Red Sea is something that gets mentioned a lot, you notice. God dries up the sea, dries up the water, and made a way in the depths of the sea for the ransom to pass over. The arm of the Lord has done so many things. And we want I want that God to wake that up. That's what he's saying. I want that to get up. Haven't you done great things in the past? Can't you do great things now? It's not saying that, but the implication is get up and do great things. There's nothing wrong with calling on God to do great things. Why not? I called on him for him to give me the Holy Spirit for many years. Not incessantly. Because if I'd done that, I maybe have gotten it sooner. And I'd be a different man, I suppose, too, because I'm not I'm not that wise. Would have been a wiser man. Prayed more frequently. Because if I had known, and I don't know that it's the frequency of your prayers or whatever, I think I would have, just because it seems like having God's Spirit was so important that I should have been praying more frequently for him to receive me that way. We want God to act in big and powerful ways. It's not always so, but he does. We have to remember that he can. And so we look to him to give us victory. His arm can be our strength also. He is our strength. And we, like it said, the nations shall, on my arm shall they trust. His strength. Because that's what upholds his righteousness, Because if God doesn't uphold righteousness, it feels like it could pass away, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like the world could just go evil? It could just go evil and then there'd be no righteousness. They would stamp it out. You know what I mean? They'd like to. Make everyone bend the knee. Everyone will just submit to what they want to do in their evil schemes, in the world of evil they want to come up with weird mark of the beast, passports and stuff like that, The Bible, even if this isn't the end times, the Bible predicted something in human behavior. You know what I mean? As far as like I said, the whole thing, you can see that desire to encompass everything by marking each person. You know what I mean? In some way. To control the population, to order the world, and always with the promise of to make paradise on earth. That's the promise. You can have the life you had normally just, 2 years ago without thinking. You can have that all back if you just give us all your biometrics and allow us to make, these computerized IDs and it'll contain your medical information and all that all in one. That'll allow you to go back to the life. What do you mean? That's not the life I had before. The life I still don't have a smartphone, and I sure as hell I'm not going to get one with a vaccine passport on it, anything like that. I mean, I don't think that's going anywhere here now, but they may push again. They're stalled, but they are not giving up just yet, as far as I know. I mean, if they can get it going in other places, eventually it'll become inevitable. And maybe it is. So the fight is also inevitable. Because there will be a fight. When we can trust in the arm of the Lord that they will not be able to extinguish the righteous and the redeemed of the Lord. The redeemed of the Lord pass to the depth of the sea when necessary. The redeemed of the Lord pass through the fiery furnace when necessary. So it's like when whatever shape the victory we're going to have takes, whether it's a sacrificial victory like Christ on the cross, or whether it's like Moses, bringing the people through alive. Either way, we will have a victory, and we will use God's power to get it. His arm is not shortened that it cannot save. It has not lost its strength that it cannot uphold the righteous. The righteous shall not be extinguished from the earth, but the wicked. That's what's coming. And the transgressions will be brought to the... But first, the transgression, it's going to come to a head. There's going to be a maximizing of the transgression. That's one of the things, I was less concerned about things going on in the world a decade ago because it just seemed like, there was some things, there's a moral slide, but I mean, the Romans had more decadence than we had, 20 years ago. And as far as like, but we were fast catching. I knew we were catching them, But I mean, there have been other societies that were quite corrupt, in my opinion. Well, it just have been. I mean, we have Sodom and Gomorrah, but I mean, Sodom and Gomorrah got to that point. And we look for the signs of such things in our society because we want to know that how much danger are we in. And, it depends on how you look at it. It's like we were in no danger at all. The Lord's redeemed. We are just here to fulfill, to me, it's about doing, like, I don't care about this. My citizenship is in heaven. And I don't really care about this world. It's all passing away, just like the Lord says. But how I handle myself in the world matters. So the role I play in the world matters because I have to take responsibility for what I've been given. He gave all talents and he said, occupy till I come. So I've been given certain things. They talk about privileges and stuff, right? White privileges and all that nonsense. It's like, white privilege might be that you don't need to take extra. You don't need to. Your body produces the vitamin D you need, so you don't need to go in the sun. That's a white privilege, I suppose, right? You don't need the sun for that purpose or whatever. If that sounds weird, it's something that someone told me, like, because they don't get as much sun in the northern latitudes, or right? But a real privilege is to be born a citizen of this republic. And that's something you're given. Not everyone gets to be a citizen of this republic. And it comes with a certain responsibility. Because we owe it to our posterity, and to those who came before us, and to the rest of the world, to uphold what was given us. It was made for a God-fearing people. And so God-fearing people must preserve. And if it isn't preserved, that's all right, because I will have done what I could and fought to preserve it. And because I in the end, whatever God's plan is, I accept. Whatever happens is going to happen. But I know that as it happens, I need to equip myself according to what God would have me do. And it's important to know what I should do. Because we want to be with God. We want Him to part the sea for us and make us pass over, or whatever, or send me in to the fiery furnace, and maybe I'll go up in smoke, but I'm going in. Because we have to trust in the Lord that He will guide us. And whatever men will do, whatever revilings they bring, whatever approaches, that this is nothing. The redeemed of the Lord shall return and come with singing to Zion, and everlasting joy shall be upon their head. They shall obtain gladness and joy, and sorrow and mourning shall flee away. God's redeemed come to Zion. Zion, the holy city. We talk about it in terms of spiritual heavenly Jerusalem being that city to which we are called, that city whose citizenship is foremost. That's my foremost citizenship, is in God's city. In the city of Zion, Jerusalem, the city that sits on Mount Zion, really, Jerusalem. But heavenly Jerusalem, it's the spiritual Jerusalem. It's not it's not about the location. It's it's disembodied from that location, and rather invested in all the redeemed. The redeemed are the city. Because if there be no walls, we can build them. But if there be no people, the walls will crumble. So the city, and of course, the city whose builder and maker is God. God has built the ultimate city. But but it portrays the foundation stones as the apostles, and the apostles are like foundation stones in the city, and so are we built upon that foundation. And we are built upon that foundation, and we are built up also, we are of that city. You know what I mean? That is our pride. So that's why we have a responsibility to do what's right. Because we are supposed to be part of his king. It says we will sit down with him in his throne and reign, even as he received of his Father and sat down in his throne. That's quite a high calling. You know what I mean? So to me, it's imperative that I take things seriously now, if I want to be taken seriously then. I mean, I don't, that feeling of disorientation when you're someplace new that you've never been before, like the first time maybe you ever went to an airport, if you hadn't done it as a child, or some place confusing or some whatever, that feeling of like not knowing what's going on. I don't want to feel that way when I'm raised from the dead and I'm facing the Lord for the first time, face to face, if that is the first time. I mean, he could appear to me, in some other fashion, face to face, I suppose. So I wouldn't, but I would be afraid. I would not want to show up then feel like out of place and like I didn't know what was going on. And I would like to feel a little bit comfortable. And I'm not saying people are going to feel all uncomfortable, but it gives me assurance. The things we do are not to earn salvation, the works we do in Christ, but they are rather the natural response of a thankful heart to God for what he has done for them. And without it, though, you look very unthankful. And without that response, it doesn't have to be, like I said, everyone's got differing gifts according to what God has given them, right? We don't all have the same things. There's things I can't do that other people do better. And there's things I do probably better than other people because of the gifts given. Well, we have to use our gifts in whatever capacity we can. And we have to touch the people we can. A lot of times, I put a lot of stock in what I did for many years of my life in raising my family. Like, I feel like that was an important thing that God wanted me to do right. So I took it very seriously. I try to take everything seriously as far as that the things I do are unto the Lord. It may not be obvious to everybody, to understand like some things. Some people probably confuse some of the things I do, no doubt. But we each have to find what it is we need to do, what it is God wants us to do. It's like, don't worry so much about my work or what I'm doing. I mean, that's fine. Those who help it and bless it, thank you. But but people don't have to do the same thing. Because it's always easy to be like, do a Bible study or something, or teach the Bible, or preach the gospel. That's the obvious thing, but it's like, to become a bishop, a man must have ruled his own house well and having his children in subjection. So, I mean, just living that way is demonstrative of a heart that fears God. By raising your family in the fear of God, by, raising them right in the ways of the Lord, it is also, it's something you have a personal responsibility to. A lot of people want to get up and preach the gospel to strangers on the street. but they didn't effectively find a way to impart their faith to their children. You know what I mean? It's like, start with people who you're actually responsible for. You know what I mean? If you want God to give strangers into your hands for your care, I'm gonna send strangers and you're gonna care for them. You're gonna bring them up in the Lord. It's like, really? How'd you do that? Were you successful with your kids at all? How'd they turn out? Maybe you're not ready for that responsibility. Maybe you are later. Maybe we learn from our mistakes though. But the thing is, how without having even done that, we have to go through some sort of process of discovering what it is we need to work on. As far, like I said, it's like if my kids all hate God, I would feel somewhat like, what did I do wrong? That's what I would feel. I would feel like I did something wrong. It's one thing if they just don't have the same faith or whatever, but if they hate God, I suggest that it's because I made them hate God by being by basically being a bad father, and then I get equated with God in their minds. That's what happens, because a lot of times God and Father are very difficult to differentiate between when you're talking about children. There's not, in a sense, we do teach God as this sort of father, this over father. It is not, they're going to compare him naturally to the father they see. And if there's if the father they see behaves, badly, it's going to, corrupt their understanding of God and their attitude towards God. And even if we, we say, we have to be mindful. It's not just enough to get people on Team God. It's not about just getting them, sometimes people, I think all they care about is people accepting Jesus, because they figure, that's it. Here's your robe, here's your cross, here's your thing. Now you're a Christian. You got all the pieces. We did it. But just turning out converts is not really, people need to have a relationship with the Lord. And so there's many deeper levels. Raising a family is sort of a deeper level of an interhuman commitment. And it's not easy. I've been at it for a while. I know it isn't easy. It kind of came easy to me in some ways. I don't know. Certain aspects, let's say. Certain aspects. I realized I had a knack for discipline. Mostly because of, I think, the importance is to, when you want to be serious and discipline-minded, to neither accept nor give any nonsense. No nonsense, especially from me. That's got to be I've got to be very clear about what I'm doing and what's right and what's wrong. Okay. The redeeming Lord shall return. Okay, we did the singing part. There's going to be great joy. We compared that verse to 35. Did I get it wrong? Were we not starting in verse 9? I thought we said 9. Whatever. Even I am he that comforteth you. Who art thou that thou shouldest be afraid of a man that shall die, and of the Son of Man which shall be made as grass? God, awake, awake, and then he double. I am he. He doubles himself. I am he that comforteth you. So who are you that you shouldest be afraid of a man that shall die? The rhetorical question, who do you think you are being afraid of men? It's a good question, because we all fear men from time to time. Unless you're just a great heroic level, fearless, everybody's got a moment. Or has had a moment, probably. Or maybe you're fearless. Some people are genuinely fearless. But it's like, just, when it comes easy for you because you're born that way, don't judge me. You fearless. What about self-control? How are you at that? Mr. Fearless. Fearless people often, self-control is an issue. The fearful, and I mean, we don't want to be fearful in that sense, because it says in the book of Revelation, the fearful, the unbelieving, the abominable, and murderers, and fornicators, and sorcerers, and idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Yet, we are to fear God. So there's a right kind of fear and a wrong. The fear of God is more about, it's not about fear like, oh, he's coming after me, but it's a sense of respect for his power, his might, his dignity, his holiness, and a fear lest we know that we should not offend those things. Because if we do offend those things, we have good cause to fear. Because, we do not, because it's not right to mock God or to do whatever, to blaspheme. There should be a fear there, like, no, we shouldn't do that. It's the fear that says no, not so much the fear that says no. You know what I mean? Like, it's not an active fear, it's a considered fear. That's how we fear God. But he isn't here to destroy us. He's here to preserve us. He's here to ransom us from the enemy. And he's the one who comforts us in the midst of our trouble. And he said, who are you that you should be afraid of a man that shall die? What do you think? It's interesting, the question, who are you? I usually think of as, you think you're really important, don't you? But it's kind of a weird thing, because he's saying, I, God, comfort you. So he says, who art thou? It's almost like you're a big, important person. I, God, myself, am he personally who comforts you. I comfort you. And yet you're still afraid of men. Which die made as grass. All flesh is as grass, and the flower thereof, and as it all passes away. But God's righteousness does not pass away, and his salvation endures forever. You forget me, he says. Who are you to fear men and forget me? I'm the one. Now, I'm the one who offers you comfort, I would say, because the comfort of the Lord is obtained when we turn to him. We have to turn to him. I mean, sometimes imperceptibly to me, it's not. I don't know that if I turned to God or if God presented himself to me. In the midst of my troubles, sometimes I turn to the Lord, but I don't know if I turn to the Lord or if he just inserts himself in the situation, honestly, because I can't tell where the thought comes from. Is it the prompting of the Holy Spirit? Very often, I'm sure it is, right? The Holy Spirit can prompt us to prayer. He can prompt us to do things. We should be obedient to that. When you feel the impulse to pray or to turn to the Lord, do so. That should be obvious. Forget the Lord thy Maker. We forget. We don't turn to him. He's the one that does comfort us in trouble. We get in trouble, with men or whatever, and we find ourselves fearing what men will say. They're going to say stuff to me. They're going to tell me to leave. I just want to, I feel that way about, a lot of things going on in the world today, especially with schools and stuff, these masks and stuff. The kids are still wearing masks for no reason. I mean, for some reason. The reason is so that they can feel themselves in control. The authoritarian teachers' unions. They want this. Just so they can show us that they can force us to do whatever they want to our children. I mean, you don't have to. I homeschooled all my kids. But I do have a kid in school right now. For the first time. On purpose. But that's for subversive reasons. The point is, I can't complain about the school if I don't have a horse in the race, So I need someone in the system so I can get angry about it. It's probably what's going on. God is he that stretched forth the heavens, laid the foundations of the earth. Yeah, you forget him and feared continually every day because of the fear of the oppressor. As if he were right, as if they were about to destroy you. You know, it may feel that way. You know, like the apostles on the ship, they were like, don't you know, Lord, we're perishing. Wake up. And a lot of times we call God's arm forth. God, give us your strength. Give us your power. Give us, help us. Send your arm forth. Let your salvation be now. And that's precisely because we feel the oppressor is upon us and we think God needs to do something. Because the oppressor wants you to believe he can destroy you. I'll destroy you. You'll have nothing. You'll be dead. Or you'll be starving. Your family will starve. Oh, that one, The oppressor is furious. Let's look at what this oppressor is. I'm curious what it says in Hebrew. What kind of the fury of the oppressor? It's doubled. Where is the fury of the oppressor? Anything I can derive from that word? Because oppressive and oppression, oppressor. It's like it could mean a lot of things. I mean, the word has loaded meaning these days. Like as far as like we talk about oppression in strange terms. I mean, people are oppressed, even though they're the most wealthy and free people that probably have existed on the face of the earth for a long time. At least or they were, or at least we used to be, right? As far as I can tell, I'm still free because nobody's stopping me. They're trying to make us not free, and all my neighbors are trying to hand over their liberties to the government, which makes me, I kind of like, I don't know, I've put on a happy face, but I sort of want to slap them. Let's say slap. I don't know, punch them. Punch is too much violence. A slap is like a wake-up call, Slap them in the face. Okay. So this word oppress is a good one. Meaning oppress is a good translation because it's more the traditional meaning. To constrain, to bring into straits, to press upon. It means literally to oppress. That's true oppression. Now there's psychological oppression that people feel. We're also in our society because we have everything so nice. We get this. We internalize stuff that used to be like people were truly suffering under oppression, like they were being oppressed, held down, made miserable, and locked in systems that they could not escape. Like slavery is an obvious form of oppression. And even the Jim Crow kind of stuff, when the world was like that, that was oppression too. Like the mask wearing, it's oppression. It is, because people say, well, what's the big deal? It's like, it wasn't a big deal for a little while. Except one, the evidence is in scientific, it doesn't help. It doesn't change anything. You'd think it would. It kind of makes a sort of logical sense. But now that when I know why masks don't work, because people just refuse to use them properly. Even at the stupid school where they require it, it's just so retarded. I'm sorry if that word offends people, but it's not retarded. That's an insult to the retarded. It's so mindless and stupid. Because in the same sporting event where my wife gets yelled at for not wearing a mask, I watch our school's principal right in front of me, sitting there quietly with her mask on, but then she stands up to yell something, pulls her mask off, yells it over the group of people in front of her, spewing out viruses and germs, no doubt. And I don't care. I believe in spreading germs. We need to share the germs, and that way we all have nice, strong immune systems and herd immunity and all that stuff. We were fine. It's just there are some vulnerable people. But anyways, and all the coaches at the sporting event, whenever they need to talk to the team, they take off their masks and yell at them. And eating, you take off your mask and eat, and they're talking and eating. And just this weird set of rules that when you least need to wear a mask, you're wearing one. I mean, when your mouth is shut and you're not talking, they got a diaper on your face. It's a stupid, unworkable situation. No one can understand anyone behind the stupid mask. People don't wear them right. And even wearing them right just the whole notion of like going after safety as like the ultimate value is also wrong. It should be left up to individuals. This should have been a mask recommendation from the beginning. And when it was, I wore it a bit. I was like, okay, I'll do my part. I don't want the old little ladies to freak out. That's how I thought. I was thinking of the little old ladies who are terrified of COVID because the news is terrifying them and lying to them. It's really despicable. Did I never bring over oppression? I did, right? The word oppression, we got to see the definition there, right? There we go. To bring into straits and such. We have the psychological oppression. We're so oppressed. People. Someone said something. I'm of a particular race, and someone made a comment that made me think was kind of insensitive to my racial concerns. Seriously, get over yourself. Oppression is like when people are seriously held down, seriously handicapped by policies, whether from government or from society in general, or from an enemy, like a foreign enemy. The oppression can occur, like the Israelites were oppressed by different nations from time to time. And if you look at the book of Judges, there's a lot of different oppressions that come from the Midianites, the Philistines, etc. So we talk about oppression these days, and it's a little weird because, people in this country, citizens, they're not oppressed. They might not be as well off as they could be. They may not be, if there's oppression going on, it's really weird, subtle, I could talk about the way the welfare state keeps people down. And it's a form of oppression. Because it literally, people get sucked into that and then they become generationally bound in it. And you can call that kind of oppression. I don't, but I'm just saying, the people wouldn't even think of that as being oppressive. A system that causes people to be brought into straits. That encourages fatherlessness and such, and which breeds violence. Not having fathers around breeds violence. That's why there's, the reason, you understand, in 70 years ago, in the 50s, blacks had a higher marriage rate than whites. The welfare state is what caused a lot of people to stop being married, because you could get this welfare money, but initially there was but you can't have a husband. And so they would either lie or the husband would leave. And that became institutionalized. So, because you can't get the welfare if you have because he's got to work. They put women on. That's why even in the 90s when they reformed welfare, they made it so if it was a woman, she had to find some work or some job. They made some requirement that you had to work or have some sort of work or I forget it, but for certain kinds of, especially for cash payments. But the system is not helping people. It sort of keeps people. I do like living in a country where we don't have poor people starving. But even you think about the homeless people, it's I don't know where they get their food, but they're not starving either, are they? So we have a country of plenty. And the garden variety oppression that people deal with is, it's talking about the oppressor that's ready to destroy. To truly destroy you. What's oppressive is this speech stuff, Like I got canceled last year by my music publisher for writing a song about the communist front organization Black Lives Matter. Basically, going after them, and the publisher canceled all my music. Right? You know, the fact that I know that if I publish this song, I'm likely to get canceled again somewhere else. It's like I'm kind of holding on to it because I don't want to get too taboo and unable to publish before I'm done writing music, right? I have another one against, and it's called the Language Police, as you can imagine. It might offend some people, but also I think like I maybe want to hold off on that one too because that's a red hot button issue, and you're not allowed to criticize some people. That's oppressive. Because when you're not allowed to say certain things, just like through the whole pandemic, the way they would shut people down who questioned the official narrative, who questioned the effectiveness of vaccines, they shut people down because they don't trust people to differentiate between truth and fiction. But the worst part is they trust the government to do that for us. But the government's one of the biggest liars on the earth. You know, I mean, you think about that Dr. Fauci, he's one of the most immoral people. He thinks nothing of lying to you. You know, he completely justifies himself in his lies and feels no remorse about lying because it's what they do. You know, so they're not looking out for your best interest. They're looking out for what they think is best overall. And if that means they need to lie to you to get you to do something self-destructive, that their goals are met, that's what they do. That's what they do. And convenient lies will be told. You know. Okay. But the oppressor, we should fear not the oppressors. You know. Stand up for what's right. I will release my songs. I'm going to do it advisedly. I don't need to hit it right. You know, sometimes if you wait a bit, things mature. Sometimes you've got to strike while the iron's hot. Like I brought out, I don't know if everyone saw the song I brought out yesterday for the Let's Go Brandon thing. And that's an example of something where it's like I had to do that quickly because that's going to be, I can't imagine that whole trend going on for a long time. And even so, by the time I got my song out, there were already 3 in the top 3 on iTunes. You have to be extremely fast. Didn't quite get there, but I still like my song anyways. Even though I'm perpetually feeling like I'm always taking last place. Which is funny. The captive exile hastens that he may be loosed. And where is the fear of the oppressed? You know, in their context, remember, God delivered them. He was speaking to those who were delivered, who were still alive. You're afraid of destruction from the oppressor, but you who trust in the Lord and hear my voice, you're still standing there. That's what I think of. Like, I think of all the times throughout my life I was afraid or worried and stuff, and it didn't turn out as I feared. And I thought, you know, where was all the stuff I was worried about? Where was that fury of the oppressor I thought was coming down on my head? You know what I mean? Where are all the calamities I feared to happen? They didn't happen. And I've had a lot of challenges, but there's no calamity has overtaken me. Nothing has destroyed me. I mean, you think about Job, the calamities that befell Job, and God was still with him. That's the thing. The Lord gives the Lord. You know, I don't know what He wants to do with me. You know, I wouldn't mind just walking through the sea. You know, just walk across on dry land. That sounds good to me. I don't necessarily, you know, want to do like Jonah and get swallowed by the fish and spit up like a dead man on the shore. I do like, in my Bible, it asserts that Jonah died. Because, of course, he was swallowed by a giant fish. He died. And God raised him from the dead. That's, you know, that's, but, whatever. There was a Bible that I had. I'm like, oh, I hadn't heard that sort of like a take on it. Because he could be miraculously preserved, of course. It's not like you would normally just... I don't think the Bible is at all trying to assert that someone could just live inside a fish for 3 days. I don't think that's what that means. So, the captive exile hastens that he may be loose. They should not die in the pit. His bread should fail. There's a certain spirit that comes on someone when they're in captivity and they're exiled. And it's almost, I think it's kind of saying, I understand your fears. There's a certain, it's a certain hastiness that comes about, like constantly being on edge, feeling like you're about to be destroyed. That kind of thing can cause you to behave, to be kind of in a hurry, to get yourself free. You don't want to stay in the pit. You want to, when you're in a bad situation, you think about the basic 3 things. How do I get free? How do I not die? And where's my food coming from? Right? I don't want to die here. I want to get free. And I need some food. All I want to do is get away and get food. Basically. Those are he's excited to get loose. As far as that's what he wants. I gotta get free. I gotta get out of here. But I am the Lord that divided the sea, whose waves roared. The Lord of hosts is the name. That's an interjection from the prophet, because he does. It's weird because he goes, and I have put my words in your mouth and covered thee with the shadow of my hand, that I could plant the heavens, lay the foundations of the earth, and say to Zion, thou art my people. A captive behaves a certain way, and it's kind of a degraded state of existence. All you're thinking about is freedom and food, because you don't want to die. But God has the power to divide the sea, to make a way in the wilderness. The waves were roaring. I've often equated going through difficult times to Peter walking on the water, because sometimes I feel like I don't know where my next paycheck's coming from. I don't know if we're gonna be able to afford the things I need to do. I don't know it specifically because I don't have all the money on hand, right? So the future is this uncertain thing. It always has been for me for a long time. I've lived that way for a long time. Most of my adult life. Maybe not most, but a significant portion of my adult life was spent not exactly knowing. Especially the last 10 years or so. Frequently being uncertain, And so it feels like I have no support, and I feel like I'm walking on the water. Like I'm still afloat, I'm still standing on the surface of the water, but it seems like around me I see all these reasons why I should sink. One, I'm standing on water, that's not right. And the waves are roaring and stuff. There's all kinds of circumstances around me coming against me, making me feel insecure, making me fearful. The oppressor is roaring. And the sea is like that oppressor. The guy said, I can make a way. I can part it. I can get it out of your way. I put my words in your mouth. I covered you in the shadow of my hand. Because, that I may plant the heavens and lay the foundations of the earth and say to Zion, thou art my people. It's an interesting conclusion to that, because he had said the earth and the heavens are passing away, but the purpose of these things is being hinted at, that my purpose in bringing the heavens and earth to be was so that I could have a people. Like I talk about the purposes of God, they are in the overall purpose of God in raising sons to glory, in bringing up the redeemed, is to make himself sons and to bring them into this family of his, to make this holy city populated with his people, my people, Mount Zion. And so to do that, there's all kinds of understandable things that come from being under oppression and being exiled and being a stranger in a strange land, right? You get focused on your immediate needs. But God is he that not only divided the sea, but also fed them in the wilderness. If you're following God, if he needs you to survive, he will bring you, the birds will bring you food. Or he'll eat birds. One or the other. All right? I've put I'm he that comforts you. Who are you to be afraid? I am he that put words in your mouth. I'm the guy who divided the sea. I've put words in your mouth, my words. I've covered thee in the shadow of my hand. A very strong symbol of protection. It protects his people because he wants to establish his people. God's purpose in creating the heavens and the earth is to establish his people. So that's why that I may plant the heavens. That's the whole purpose of planting the heavens, is to raise up my people. I have a purpose in creating the world. It's to make these things happen. So, and so ultimately, because God's purposes are tied up in what he's doing with his people, there is nothing to fear. Not from man. Though we do fear man, and it's understandable. When we feel captivated by the world, when we feel immersed in the world, we can feel disconnected from God. But that's why we have to be instant in prayer and turning to the Lord and reminding ourselves of the presence of the Holy Spirit in our lives so that we can face up to the challenges that the world offers, knowing that God is with us and that his purpose in bringing about these challenges is to make you. He wants to make his people. That's what he's sending his arm out to. His strength is to carry us and to protect us to the degree to which it is necessary for our formation into the likeness of Christ. All right. So we'll pick it up with verse 17. That's a nice place to pick it up. Thanks for joining this study. Looking forward to being back again. Tomorrow's Friday, right? Yes, so tomorrow. Okie dokie.
And by great waters, the seed of Sihor, the harvest of the river is her revenue. And she is the mart of nations. Be thou ashamed, O Sidon, for the sea hath spoken. Even the strength of the sea is saying, I travail not, nor bring forth children, neither do I nourish up young men, nor grow virgins. As at the report concerning Egypt, so shall they be sorely pained.